Marion County Community Library, and today we're going to make some patriotic wood stars with a little technique to make them look primitive looking. So our supplies for this project are a 3.5-inch block of wood, which was cut from a 2x4. If you don't have a 2x4, you just want a 3.5-inch block, but you want it thick enough that it would stand up by itself. We're also going to be using some red, white, and blue craft paint, and of course some paint brushes. I have a couple different sizes here. The trick to making it look primitive is petroleum jelly or Vaseline. And you're going to need a Q-tip to put that on with. And we're going to use a star pattern. This is a 3-inch star, which will come with our instructions, and a pencil. So the first step I'm going to do is I'm going to trace my star on both sides of my wood block. And I want to use a pencil. We don't want to have an ink mark that we can't cover with our white paint. So I'm just going to kind of center it on the block, hold it down with my fingers, and trace around it lightly with a pencil. One side of our star is going to be blue, and the other side of our star is going to be red. So I'm going to show you how to do the blue side, and then you'll just do the same technique on the other side. And it'd be really cute if you did several and stacked them up together like that. Okay. So I've traced my star on with the pencil, and I would go ahead and do that on the other side. Now I'm going to take my white paint, and the first thing I'm going to do is paint both stars white. I'm going to do both sides. And I want to start with a small brush. There's nothing more frustrating than having a brush that isn't the right size when you're trying to do the little point of a star. And I'm only going to put one coat of paint on mine. I want it to look kind of old. So I don't really need a bright white star in the center that looks brand new. So I'm just going to do one coat of paint on mine. So I've got a small brush. I'm going to do the little points first with my little small brush. Then I'll probably come back with a bigger brush. It'll go a little faster that way. And once I paint both sides, I mean being very careful, I'm not going to lay this side down before it's dry. I'm going to let both stars completely dry before I start my next step. Usually if you get a technique like this, you're going to have to paint your block of wood and then sand the edges to make it look old and worn like that. But I'm going to show you an easier way that does not involve sanding or a sandpaper. So I've got my little points done, so I'm going to take my bigger brush here and speed things up. This is going to look primitive, so if you don't have a real steady hand, don't worry about it. So once I get this all done, we're going to take a little break and let this completely dry before we go on to our next step. So we'll see you soon. Hi, we're back, and I actually used a hairdryer to help my paint dry a little faster. That worked really well. Just a little tip there if you're in a hurry. Our next step is we're going to apply our petroleum jelly with a Q-tip. So I'm going to put a little bit on my Q-tip, and I'm going to put the Vaseline on where I don't want the paint to stick. So usually in an antique piece, the edges are worn. So I'm going to put a light coat of my Vaseline on all my top edges. I'm only going to do the front side right now. So all around a little Vaseline. And I'm also going to put a little bit on the top side. I'm not going to put any on the star. I kind of like that star just solid. I don't really want it to look worn. And I'm going to put a little bit on the corners. Oops, that's a little bit more than I wanted to make. And I'm going to paint 2 of the sides blue and 2 of the sides red. So I'm going to put just a little dabs here and there on the side, 2 of the sides. And I'm going to put just some little streaks on the front. Where I don't want my paint to stick a little on the front there. So I'm done with the Vaseline. So now I'm going to go right to my blue paint. So I'm painting the front and 2 sides blue, and the other 2 sides and the back will be red. So I'm going to paint right over the Vaseline. With my blue paint, carefully going around the edges of my star. If you have a brush with a flat edge like this, it makes it easy to make a straight line. Like I said before, this is going to be a primitive looking piece, so if you don't get it just exactly right, don't worry about it. And I'm painting right over that Vaseline. You might end up with a little Vaseline on your fingers as you handle it here. And you do want to completely let the blue side dry before you start on the red side. And once I'm done with this blue paint, I am going to take a paper towel and start rubbing the paint gently. And where there was Vaseline, the paint will come off. So I'm not going to paint the edges right now, just so you can see the technique here as soon as I'm done painting. Okay, so I would go ahead if I was going to finish it here and paint the 2 edges that I was going to do blue. So you want to take a paper towel and gently start wiping, and you can see it's starting to come off. Being careful that you don't get the blue into the white there. And the more Vaseline you use, the more paint is going to come off. So if you like it really old looking, really rough looking, you can put more Vaseline on. If you like it less, you can put less Vaseline on. The harder you rub, the more that's going to come off. So we're getting just a little coming off here. And my fingers are getting messy. So if I wanted more to come off, I would just keep rubbing. But you can see the sample here. I had quite a bit come off on that one. And I put the Vaseline a little lighter layer on this one. So you'd go all the way around the 2 sides and let the blue dry, and then do the same thing on the back with the red paint. And when you're all done, everything's all dry, you're going to take a piece of jute. This will make it look a little even more rustic. And wrap it around. And I want to show you a little technique for making a bow. What you want to do is, let me give myself a little more here to work with. A lot of people have trouble with a bow. If you make 2 loops, let me give myself a little more to work with here. You want to make 2 loops like bunny ears, like kids learn to tie their shoes. It's a good technique when you're tying a bow on something like this. So you're going to make 2 loops, and you're going to tie the loops together, one over the other. And usually it comes out pretty straight, even up the ends. So I wrapped mine a couple times around my block. So there you go, your patriotic star ready for the 4th of July. See you soon.
Huron County Community Library, a destination for all ages.